Okay. Uh, Tzom Moil should be a meaningful fast. Bezrat Hashem, the last time I had to fast this Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, and not at all Tisha B'Av. Hopefully, Bezrat Hashem, as the Navi in Zechariah tells us, that these four fast days of the year that are listed in the Nevi'im, besides Tanit Esther, which we fast, which is the most lenient one, the one that's totally rabbinic, not even based on the prophets. So the prophet says in Zechariah that these four fast days will turn into festive days, like holidays. And it's interesting that the Gemara says that all the holidays that we have today will be canceled except for Purim. So we're going to have four holidays, which will be the 4 fast days plus Purim. Those will be the 5 instead of the 5 we have today, which are the 3 Regalim and Chanukah and Purim. So switch from these 5 to those 5. Very interesting what that means exactly, but at least we only need to fast. That's the main thing, and the more importantly, we'll have the final redemption and the Beit HaMikdash, prophets coming back, Sanhedrin, Malchus Beis David, all they were looking forward to. It's interesting how maybe us too, but the young generation definitely. Just yesterday, I was approached by a girl in her early 20s, just turning 20, one maybe, and she said, she asked me, "What's this fast about?" So I said what happened, a few of the things that occurred during Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. When we get to the siege around the city of Jerusalem, the breaking into the city of Jerusalem, and the Churban Beis HaMikdash following within 3 weeks. We count 3 weeks. At the time when it occurred, it was a span. The siege around the city held on for 3.5 years, from Asar B'Teves till Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. It wasn't just a few months; it was 3.5 years. And then, from the moment they broke into the old city, that's when it took 3 weeks to get to the Beit HaMikdash and burn it down. So, when we spoke about Beit HaMikdash, she asked, "What are we lacking? What are we looking forward to at Beit HaMikdash? What are we missing?" So, it's an excellent question. It's hard to fathom since we never had the experience of being in times when Beit HaMikdash was standing up in Yerushalayim. So it's hard to imagine, it's hard to have the feeling of what it means to have Beit HaMikdash and the lack without it. What are we lacking? So I spoke about much feeling the spirituality, feeling Hashem much closer to us, the Shekhinah be much closer to us. But that doesn't mean much either to many people, depending how much a person feels connected right now before Beit HaMikdash. But so I said maybe the main aspect is that us as a people, as a nation, will be worthy of having Beit HaMikdash. It's not just to build a building. It's not like any other building that we build in Eretz Yisrael or in Chutz La'aretz, where it's just bricks and wood, and we build a building. Here we're talking about preparation that's needed amongst our nation, to be worthy of Beit HaMikdash. And the preparation is to become one, to become united, and feel love towards every single Jew. That's Beit HaMikdash. Every time we settle a fight between two Jews or between different groups, or tough, hard arguments that lead to separation, animosity, hatred. Anytime we settle such a situation, we build another brick for Beit HaMikdash. It's the end result of all that is the actual building. But really, it has to do much more with the unity, with the Achdus within Am Yisrael. And that's what we're really looking forward to seeing everyone as part of the nation and feeling the need of every type, every group, every political party, every every ideological statement that leads to a better people, to a better nation. That's what we're looking forward to having. Okay, so just a small short about Torah on the parsha that we just read yesterday, and then we'll go to our halachic discussions. If there are any questions regarding Shiva Asar Tammuz or the 3 weeks, gladly we can discuss that. I know that Sender always reminds us to learn relevant halachos to the time we're in, so we'll go through quickly also the halachos of the 3 weeks. But firstly, on the parsha, I heard this from my son, who we heard from Rav David Amitai. Rav David Amitai is a Rosh Yeshiva in a branch of Elon Moreh, which is situated in Tapuach, in the settlement Tapuach. There's fairly quite new yeshiva there, which is headed by Rav David Amitai. So he spoke about the fact, as a Baal Koreh, I noticed this yesterday, you can't help but notice it, that the entire parsha of Balak, except for the last paragraph of Vayeshev Yisrael Bashittim, the entire parsha is all one chunk of words, word after word after word. There's no separation between different sections like there most of the time is Parasha Ptucha, Parasha Stuma. Sometimes you have just a little bit of space, and sometimes you have empty. You go to the next line. Here in Parashas Balak, it's one whole unit from beginning to end, almost until Vayeshev Yisrael Bashittim, till Balak, till Bilam leaves, goes away. Then it stops for the line finishes, and it goes enter and goes on to the next line. So why is that it's all one chunk? So he explained that Chazal tell us why are in the first place, why are there different paragraphs in general in the Torah, Parsha Ptucha, Parsha Stuma? Why is that space necessary? Why not just write the whole Torah straight through? So the Gemara explains, the Midrash explains that Moshe Rabbeinu was told, Ten lecha revach tasim min parasha leparasha kedei litbonen ba. That space was really time. There was time given to Moshe Rabbeinu to absorb the message of what he had just studied and really internalize it, and then continue to the next passage. And that's how we're supposed to teach to our students and ourselves. When we learn Torah, we learn something and then we internalize it. We're supposed to try to feel how it comes into us, and we try to act upon it and remember what we've learned, and then we go on to the next passage, the next paragraph. So Bilam and Balak were people that never checked themselves, never inspected themselves, they never internalized what's going on. Otherwise, they would have realized that the very first time that he speaks out the brachos, they would have stopped. They would have said, what's going on? We're doing the opposite, counteracted to what we're meant to be doing, to curse Chas v'chel Am Yisrael. But they don't stop to think for a second. They just continue on going with their mission, with their goal, and they don't stop to think, wait, are we in the right direction or not? Only after four times of switching the curses to brachos, only then do they give up, do they surrender. And then there's a parsha Ptucha to show now they realize. But had they stopped to think, what's going on with our lives? What's going on with our mission? Are we in the right direction? They would have stopped after the first time already. Maybe even before going there with the malach, with the donkey stopping on the way and not going, not budging, not going forward. He would have realized right then and there. But he was a person that was completely engrossed and caught by his own will to do something. He's not inspecting himself whether it's going in that direction or not. That's why there's no Parsha Ptucha Stuma. It's a very nice thought, and leads to, again, to ourselves that we should realize, we should try to understand what's going on in our lives on a personal level, on a national level, to see if we're in the right direction, inspect ourselves. That's what Elul is all about. Always to do cheshbon nefesh, check our ways once a year at least, check if we're going the right way. Tammuz, by the way, is Rashi Tevos. There's a abbreviation of Tammuz in other different sequence of letters. Zmanei tshuva, mimashmeshim uvayim. rearrange the letters of Tammuz, Zmanei Tshuva, the times of Tshuva, Memashmeshimu Vayim, are coming close and coming soon. So it's telling us Tammuz is coming close to Elul, which is the month of inspecting ourselves, checking ourselves if we're in the right direction. And if we say that already, so the abbreviations of Av is Elul Ba. It makes it even closer. Elul Ba, Elul is coming soon. So that's that idea. And then finishing up with this type of same idea, with his, also from Rav David Amitai, he added that there's the end of the parsha. We finish actually in the middle of the story. We're sort of not finished yet, because it says 24,000 people die in the plague of the Bnos Midian, and they had sinned very terribly with the women of Midian. And Pinchas does what he does to kill one of the leaders of the tribes, leader of the tribe of Shimon, and the woman that he was doing what he was doing with. And then the story stops. The continuation comes straight after by Pinchas Heshivet Chamati. We find a happy ending. We could have thought that he did a terrible thing. And it's also very unpleasant to finish the parsha with 24,000 dead Jews, no matter if they were sinful or not. That's not the point. 24,000 people die in one second. By the way, reminding us of 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva, who in the Kabbalistic works, they say they were the Gilgul of those 24,000 of Shimon, and they didn't correct their ways, whatever. But it's a very terrible thing. We mourn over Talmidei Rabbi Akiva all the 2/3 of the way on by Sfiras Omer. How do we end a parsha in a very sad way? We don't normally end even an aliyah, something bad that happens. So by the way, there is a custom. I don't remember which Eidah, which sect in Judaism, if it's the Moroccans or some group within amongst us, that do read the first 3 psukim of Pinchas in the end of Balak on Shabbos. They continue on the next 3 psukim just to finish with a happy ending. But most of us don't do that. So why is that? Says Rav David Amitai, in this case, not only is there a 9-letter space or an enter where you go to the next line, it's the end of a whole parsha, and you have to wait a week or at least a few hours if you count Mincha of Shabbos to hear the continuation. So that's not only to give you time to think about what has happened, what has done, but really it tells us, it's warning us that this act of Pinchas, which is an act of kanaut, zealousy, where such an act is done only rarely, and by very, very special human beings, very, very unique human beings. Only then can it be done. So it tells us, don't think that this is something commonly done and by anyone who wants to. This is an act that's done very, very seldomly by unique people. So it tells us at this point, stop for a whole week, and consider and weigh this act, and make sure you don't go overboard with it and do this on your own, many, whatever you want, and act this way. An action of very seldomly done by very unique people. Okay, so we hope we learned the message that we're meant to learn, each one of us, and as a group, as a whole. Correct the Zayin B'Tammuz 5 difficult. There's some sound going on there, David.
I don't want to interrupt you. I want to say something in a small break.
There's some interruption in your line, on your line there, something in your reception. It's making a sound. Oh, no, now it's muted. You want to write something in the chat? No. making a sound and we can't hear you. You want to write something on the chat, maybe? Okay, till you write something on the chat.
It mentions in Yeshua, if I'm correct, that Bilam ends up being killed by Bnei Israel.
It's mentioned in Matot.
But Matot, not Yeshua, it's
No, Matot. He's killed by a sword, Becharev, right?
What happens with Balak? Is his fate mentioned?
Oh, with Balak. Not that I know of. Interesting. Not that I know of. Not that I know of. But reminding you another question that my son asked, and one of his friends asked him, and I think I found an answer. It's not clear the answer, but my son's friend asked another question, very interesting. Did Balak and Bilam ever realize after going through all 4 blessings instead of cursings and all that went on with them, did they ever come to understand and realize that they're not in control of what's going on and there's really Hashem in this world and it's Am Yisrael, and Am Yisrael is the chosen nation? They ever did tshuva of any type? Not saying they were great tzaddikim and they converted to Judaism. That never happened. But did they ever stop and think? We said now that they did not stop and think all the way through. Bilam and Balak were trying it over and over again. But at the very end, we do have that separation, that space, empty space. Does that mean that they realized where the truth lies in the end? So what David just said now is that he was killed, Bilam. So seemingly he never regretted being that evil man. He never changed his ways. Yeah.
There, an interpretation that before they parted, that Bilam said, well, the way to defeat Israel is if they start sinning.
Exactly.
So that realization is really realizing Israel needs to sin for Hashem, that Hashem is in control. Not from how they're behaving, but they see that it's really what Bnei Israel how
they act,
how they behave that will influence Hashem. So there is some insight there.
That's a good point. I thought you meant to say the opposite in the beginning, since Bilam was the one who gave that eitzah, that advice to Balak to send the women and make them stumble. So we see that he never learned the lesson. He's that wicked man all the way through. He just wants to get rid of the Jewish people different ways. But you're saying on the other hand,
understand that that's a way to get rid of him is understanding that
right.
You can be wicked and practical. I disagree.
What's that?
You can be wicked and practical.
Right. No, I think besides that, he realized from the beginning that Hashem is in control because he was asking permission. From the beginning, he asked permission from Hashem, can I go? So that realization really was there from the beginning, but he tried catching the moment. It says that he knew always, every day, the moment that Hashem is angry. There's one moment every day that Hashem is angry. The thing is that, as we learned in the Haftarah yesterday, from Micha, that Hashem had mercy over the Jewish people, and those few days that Bilam had attempted to curse the Jewish people, Hashem never got angry. Those few days, it wasn't even a moment, so he couldn't catch the moment. But he was always in contact with Hashem. He was always in touch. He was a prophet, after all. Bilam was on the same level as Moshe Rabbeinu on this prophecy. We won't go into that discussion of how can that be. That's a whole other issue. But he was definitely he had strong belief in Hashem as controlling the world because he was always in touch and contact with him. But he never changed his wickedness. He remained all the way through as a wicked man. So I said, I don't know if it's mine. I think I heard this many years ago, but I don't recall from whom. That really the Torah tells us exactly what happened to Balak and Bilam from the point of view of realizing or not realizing where the truth lies. Because the last pasuk, when they part from each other, it says, "Vayelech Bilam limkomo, v'gam Balak shav." No, "Vayelech Balak limkomo, v'gam Bilam shav." Wait. "Vayelech Bilam ledarko, v'gam Balak shav limkomo." Something like that. It's the last pasuk before Be'esh V'Sel Bashitim, meaning that both Bilam and Balak returned to their places. Why does the Torah need to tell us that? Isn't it obvious after you finished your mission, so to speak, and then you go home? What's the meaning of the Torah telling us that they each separated and went to their own homes? So, Vayelech limkomo, Vayelech bedarko means they return to their same being, to who they were before all this happened. Nothing changed. The same makom, the same place. You have the pasuk? Oh, okay. So Bilam returned to his place. What does that mean? He returned to who he was before. Nothing changed. Balak continued his line of thought, his derech, his way, his philosophy of life. Nothing changed in both of them. So that's how wicked they were. No matter what Hashem tried to show them and to do to them and to make everything collapse, they're still gang-ho against the Jewish people, and therefore they send the women to make them sin. Nothing changed. So we're supposed to be people of change, of perfecting ourselves, perfecting our ways, and not returning to who we were day in, day out without realizing what's going on in our life. And it's in a public life also, in a national scale as well, international scale. We have this corona, we have wars, we have this, we have that. We're supposed to learn from what occurs to us in life to perfect ourselves, not to go back to who we were before, rather keep on developing, keep on climbing up the ladder, becoming better and better Jews personally, and that's how the entire nation becomes better, by each and every person individually perfects their ways. That's how we grow and grow and grow. Okay, now I'll see your chat, David. 1 second. Oh, now there's no sound. Okay, you fixed it, right?
I changed for a moment to my phone.
Okay. You're asking if Ayala is in the base Medrash? No.
Okay. So I want to write him separately.
Okay, to get him on Zoom. Okay.
Yeah. Something on the parsha I noticed in light of our conversations in the last week or two, if recall, about Gedolim in our day, and sometimes they seem to be getting older. And I'm not making conclusion, but in this week's parsha, it says that Moshe was not given the ability to handle this issue that Pinchas took care of. And It was taken, so to speak, taken away from him so Pinchas would deserve the merit. I mean, there might be many other reasons. I think Rashi says, but it made me think, but Moshe still went on to be the Gadol who led Bnei Israel still afterwards. So it was an interesting parallel, I thought, to Gedolim, who are clearly the Gedolim, but yet we see moments where we feel like, why aren't they stepping up to do what they need to do? And then the Torah has a case of Pinchas. So I'm not sure if I'm right, but it made me think of that. That's
very nice. Very nice. Very nice. So sometimes someone younger takes action, but yet the Gedolim remain Gedolim, right?
I think the pshat in this case,
yes,
the pshat is very, very strong, with Moshe marrying a convert himself.
You think so?
For sure. No ands, ifs, or buts. Moshe could not do anything in his situation because of his personal lifestyle, his personal choice of wife, etc. For sure. I mean, not even a suffix in my mind.
Actually, Midianite. She was from Midian, right? Yeah, but that's the great difference. He converted her, whereas she's.
He's not conversion of our days.
Yeah, she didn't go through Ulpan.
The way she converted, Rabbanut would deny it. I'll bet you my life savings on it. You know it also.
Yeah, that's true.
He took him under the confay, under his wings.
Yeah. Okay, but even that slight difference is it's a huge difference. Okay, no, that's true. That's true. But that's
converting her also. She's going to be a Jewess also.
Even if it's a small difference, but it's a huge difference because that's the difference. If you go through that even a small step, or you don't.
I'm on Moshe's side. Of course, he married a Jewish girl. I'm not
right.
All I'm saying is that what the people would say, what people would talk. That's the point. Of course,
they had something that
the people, of course, you can't compare.
The very first one.
Wouldn't see it that way.
Right. The very first, the very obvious person who spoke up against Moshe for around that issue was Miriam. Lashon Hara that he spoke a few parshas ago had to do with that, with him marrying Tzipporah. Although it says there that her main point was that he had left her. Why is it that what if you're a prophet? You can still live with your wife. You can still have normal marital life. And then Hashem explains to Miriam and to Aaron that Moshe Rabbeinu is different than all of the prophets. He speaks with me every moment it can be every second suddenly, and you have to prepare and you know when and not at every moment and you purify yourself, and only then I speak to you. Moshe Rabbeinu has to be pure 24/7 because we talk like normal human beings one to each other. So, but it also has to do with the fact that he married a woman who was a convert to it. Although all of Am Yisrael had converted by Mount Sinai, Kabbalah Satorah, all the laws of conversion we learned from that episode from the Gemara Yevamos Memvav. But still, he took a woman who was completely separate from the Jewish people. She was a Midiani woman. Anyhow, I see the point, but okay, that could be one of the reasons that Moshe didn't do the act himself. Okay, so we'll do a little bit of halachos of the 3 weeks. Then we have time in the end. We'll continue on Shabbos. So as of last night, according to most poskim, except for Moshe Feinstein, who holds that the morning customs of 3 weeks only began this morning, dawn, and not from last night. But most poskim hold that it begins like any Jewish day in the calendar. It begins from the night before. So here too, the prohibitions of the 3 weeks began last night. They include mainly marriage, no marrying, no haircut, no shaving, music. We don't hear music, especially if it's happy music. If you hear classical music or chazanus or those soft songs like the Sudash Lishi type melodies, which are soft, which are slow motion, those can be listened to. You can listen to such music, but not the happy danceful music you dance to, because really it doesn't say anywhere that you're not supposed to hear music. It just says in the Shulchan Aruch, rikudim mecholot. You're not supposed to dance these days. So music that leads to dancing is problematic. Even if you're hearing it while you're driving in the car, you can't dance then unless you're a Breslover guy dancing while driving. But otherwise, you don't dance as we drive. But the music itself is a type of music that we dance to normally. So that's the type of happiness we're not supposed to have during the 3 weeks. Going to even amusement parks or swimming in pools or in the ocean, that's all okay. It doesn't say you're not supposed to be happy to that extent of not doing cheerful things and enjoying yourself. It doesn't say that. That only begins as of Rosh Chodesh Av. Gemara has a comparison there between Av and Adar. So Av, we're supposed to limit our happiness and not do too many things that make us happy. And Adar, we're supposed to enhance and make greater our happiness. So as of Rosh Chodesh Av, for 2 reasons, we don't do such things like amusement parks, like pools, like ocean. Ways because we're supposed to limit our happiness and be sort of more in a sad temperament about the destruction of the world. And B, because those 9 days are more dangerous days than normal. The Satan, the Malach HaMavet, is sort of more able to do things, bad things. So we're supposed to be very careful from a physical point of view not to do dangerous things. And usually when you go places like pools or oceans can be dangerous, drowning. Even some posts can say, try not to travel too much during the 9 days, because traveling also entails danger, even in the car. If you go long journeys in the car, definitely plane. Better if possible, better not to travel during the 9 days. But 3 weeks, meaning we call 3 weeks, we call those less than 2 weeks for between Yudzayin B'Tammuz till Rosh Chodesh Av, then that's okay to do all these type of things. One more limitation during the entire 3 weeks is Birkas Shehecheyanu. We don't put ourselves into a position that we're meant to say the bracha of Shehecheyanu, not because of, at least during these days between Yudzayin B'Tammuz and Rosh Chodesh Av, it's not because we're not supposed to be delightful and happy and the bracha is over delightful occurrences. It's because the wording of Shehecheyanu, V'Kiyimanu, V'Gyanu, L'Zman Hazeh is a wording that we're not meant to say because we're not happy during these days. You don't want to say to us, bless Hashem over these beautiful days He gave us, because this time period of 3 weeks is not so great to be in. So we don't bless Hashem over these days. If it's, how do we see the difference between the wording that we're not supposed to say or the actual situation we're in that we're not meant to be in? The difference is by a tov ha'meitiv. If one buys something new that makes him very happy, like a new car that's meant to be for the family, for a few family members, it's meant to be you, the family members, so it's not Shehecheyanu that we say a tov ha'meitiv. Anything new that we buy and use, the first time we're very happy with it. It's not just something mundane like even a set of dishes. If it's not special dishes, but daily dishes that we have, buy a new set, we don't say Shehecheyanu anyhow, all year round. It's not something so great to buy. But if you buy something that's makes us very happy, like a new couch, that's a nice piece of furniture that we spend some money on, and it makes our whole house look nicer. Such things, according to most poskim, you would say Shehecheyanu. But if it's meant for several people to use, like your whole family to use, then instead of Shehecheyanu, all year round, you say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, hatov ha'meitiv. That's tov for yourself and metiv for others. Only if it's a personal thing, you buy yourself a suit, or you're eating a new fruit, so that's for yourself personally. No one's going to wear a suit besides you. No one's going to eat from that fruit besides you. So that is Shehecheyanu. Only when it's personal or a very happy purchase that you made and you use it, upon using it the first time, you say Shehecheyanu. If it's something mutual to others as well, to be used by others as well, then it's a tov ha'meitiv. So during these 2 and somewhat weeks between Yudzayin B'Tammuz and Rosh Chodesh Av, a little less than 2 weeks, 12 days. Good, gave me the right way to say it. During these 12 days, we're not supposed to say Shehecheyanu, but we can say a tov ha'meitiv. It's not the mere fact that you bought yourself something that makes you happy. That's not an issue either. It's very limited to those few things we said. We said no haircuts or shaving. We said no marriage, and music. Thank you. Right, music, which is dancing music. Right. It's limited to those 3 areas. All the rest of the things, even if it makes you happy, it's not under the category of the 12. You buy a new car now, because anything that that's the nafkamina. That's what comes out of this. Even if it makes you happy, it's okay. Just don't do something that makes you say the bracha of Shehecheyanu because of the wording, not because of the issue itself. We're not supposed to be happy to be living. That these 3 weeks came upon us now. It's not a happy time, so you can't say Shehecheyanu v'kibanu v'yanu l'zman hazeh. That wording doesn't sound right. But a tov ha'meitiv doesn't have those words in it. The bracha doesn't include the zman hazeh, so we're fine. Yes.
Your explanation between a tov ha'meitiv and Shehecheyanu, correct me if I'm wrong, but if a single person, not married, not family, inherited money from his father, he wouldn't say a tov ha'meitiv, he would say Shehecheyanu.
Correct. True.
Even though Chazal
says tov ha'meitiv.
ha'meitiv.
Right. Because I guess they were thinking that when a father dies, usually it's a married person who has kids. So normally you would say tov ha'meitiv, but if it's a single person, you're right. It says Shehecheyanu. Right. Very difficult situation. You have both mourning and happiness at the same moment. So they say Adana Emes and Shehecheyanu or tov ha'meitiv. It's very hard to include both feelings at the same moment. Yeah, but that's true. Okay, now, so that's for the 3 weeks. That's approximately what we have prohibited. The 9 days is another whole discussion because there are much more limitations. We won't do that now. We'll do it next week as we approach the 9 days. Yes. Yes. That's fine. That's fine. During these days, for sure, yes. The 12 days, for sure, no problem. Anyone can swim wherever they'd like. The 9 days, Rosh Chodesh Av till Tisha B'Av included, it's still okay. It doesn't say anywhere that you're not meant to swim. It's just that we said before that those are more dangerous days in general. Right. But I'm saying, even for enjoyment, it's not such a tremendous pleasure that we can say that you're not meant to do it to begin with. An amusement park is not the right thing to go to, but the ocean or a pool isn't something of tremendous pleasure, even if it was done for enjoyment. Especially, even more so if it's done for medical reasons. Then for sure, you're okay with that. The only thing is, you have to just be a bit more careful physically. The way you swim, where you swim, just be more careful. That's it. If you go anytime, which is wrong all year round, or if you go into the ocean where there's no lifeguard, these days, don't do that. Or you go to Tiyulim. A lot of guys go on Tiyulim because it's their vacation days. Yeshivot go out to vacation after Tisha B'Av, but some boys cut a little earlier. It's the reason David, yeah. Yeah, there's reason with David. So sometimes they go on all these hikes and things, and they go into water, and chas v'chalila, we hear disasters sometimes during these days, or car accidents. Be extra careful during the 9 days, not to go on adventures of any type. But if it's for medical reasons, then for sure the swimming itself is okay. Just see if you can do it a little bit more, be more careful to make sure nothing happens. Okay, so that's that. Yeah, I think we've covered. One more thing. Shechianu can be said on Shabbat. All Shabbatot within the 3 weeks, we can say Shechianu on Shabbat. So if there's a new fruit that comes out, the seasonal fruit that we're supposed to say Shechianu over, keep it for Shabbat and then eat it for the first time and say Shechianu. That's how we can start eating peaches and plums, things that are fruits, seasonal fruits of the summer. If we hadn't had them before the 3 weeks, which is till it's past Shabbat. From now on, we're in 3 weeks already. So if you hadn't had a new fruit, keep it for Shabbat and eat it then. The order of the brachos, the Mishnah Berurah holds, that you meant to say Shechianu before ha'etz. First Shechianu, Baruch ha'etz, and then take a bite. A lot of people do it the opposite order. First ha'etz, then Shechianu, and then take a bite. It doesn't matter, this or that. They're both fine.
Kiddush do the second one.
What's that? By Kiddush, for sure you do the second one, for sure. Yeah, that's for sure. So that's where they take it from. That's a good idea.
Do it the other way?
Which other way? The way that Shechianu first?
Yeah.
Because not to have an interruption, not to make an interruption between the ha'etz and the eating. The other logic is it's not an interruption because it's part of it's a bracha that's meant to be said before you eat.
Same break from Hagafen and drinking
Correct.
and eating.
Correct.
What's the difference?
But there, I would say maybe the difference is since you're anyway interrupting between Hagafen, because you have to say the whole bracha of Kiddush between Hagafen and the drinking. So if you're anyway interrupting with it, so go along with the Shechianu also. And by the way, for Kiddush by Sukkis, you're also going to be saying a Sheba Sukkah, which is another interruption. So if it's anyway interrupted already, then you can add on the Shechianu. But the Ha'etz or Ha'adama, sometimes by Ha'adama we also have Shechianu. It's rare. But for example, watermelon. It's already in season for a while now. But whenever you had the first watermelon in the summer season, which is Ha'adama, we're still supposed to say Shechianu as well. Because it's an important Ha'adama. Normally, vegetables aren't important enough to say Shechianu, aren't special to us. They're all year round. But if it's a special Ha'adama type produce, then we do say Shechianu. Okay, so on Shabbat we can, but not on a weekday. Someone asked me if we buy new clothes that during the 12 days, because again, during the 9 days, it becomes days that we're supposed to be less happy. Not only not do this and this and this, but also matin b'simcha. So we should not be purchasing new items in the first place. Only if it's very, very, very necessary. We need them very badly. But if we've bought new clothes during the 12 days of the 3 weeks now, and wearing them for the first time requires shehecheyanu, so if it's daily clothes, weekday clothes, what should we do with that? Should we wear them on Shabbat, the first Shabbat coming up after we bought them, and for the first time wear them on Shabbat? So I said no, because usually weekday clothes aren't so exciting to say shehecheyanu in the first place. So just wear them during the week, the first time during the week. It's not the problem of buying something new and even wearing it or using it. It's the problem of the bracha itself. So just wear it. For a weekday shirt or pants, you don't say shehecheyanu anyhow, all year round. So just wear it new during the days. And afkan contrary, if you wear it on Shabbat for the first time, so you're wearing weekday clothes on Shabbat, which isn't the proper thing to do. You're supposed to wear more special clothes on Shabbat. So that won't happen. If you buy yourself a new suit, which is meant for Shabbat and Chag, then yes, wait for Shabbat to wear it for the first time and say shehecheyanu, which we say shehecheyanu after we wear it, meaning we put it on, and then if it's all the moment it's all on, then we say the bracha of shehecheyanu for a new suit. But it has to be a special clothes, not weekday clothes. We don't say shehecheyanu for that.
And the new suit situation, when you're getting dressed to go to shul Friday night,
right?
You would say the bracha while it's still daytime, or you would say you have to wait for Shabbos. It's the same thing. You get dressed before, you don't get dressed on Shabbos, you're in shul on Shabbos.
Right.
So when would you talk to say the bracha in a topic situation?
That's interesting. No, you shouldn't say it before Shabbos, because then you're saying shehecheyanu on a weekday. You should say it on a Shabbat. So two things I can suggest. One is wear it Shabbos morning. Wear the old suit Shabbos Friday night, and use a new one Shabbos morning. Then it's during Shabbat. If you didn't do that, if you wore Friday before Shabbat, don't say the bracha yet, because the moment you're wearing it for the first time, even if it's not the first second it's on you, as long as it's the first wear, and not only the first wear, even second and third wears, when you still feel the excitement over a new suit, that it's a new suit. After twice or three times you've worn it, then it's already routine. But the first, second, third time, still you can say shehecheyanu, and definitely more so even when you're wearing it for the first time, all the hours that it's on you until you take it off. So I would wait for Shabbat and say shehecheyanu the moment Shabbat comes in, really. By a fruit, it's not so. By a fruit, the first whole fruit that you've eaten for the first time during the season, you can say shehecheyanu. Not even if you forgot to before the first bite, you could still say shehecheyanu as you're eating the first fruit itself. But the moment you finish that first fruit, you had an apple, you had a peach or a plum for the first time during the season. So the entire peach or the entire plum is okay to say shehecheyanu, even the third, fourth, fifth bite. But when you finish that first fruit, you can no longer say shehecheyanu. You missed the chance. Even if you're still excited over the next peach, but you cannot say it again. First fruit that's it, it's gone. If it's a different type, like there's a peach and there's a what is it called? Nectarine, correct, nectarine. Those are different types of fruits, so then you say separate shehecheyanu. But otherwise, for the first fruit itself, you can still say as you're eating it. Okay. So that's for the 3 weeks. Now, by the way, all this was all for Ashkenazim. Sephardim have a totally different train of thought and totally different halachos pertaining to these 3 weeks. For them, it's much more lenient. Much more lenient. For them, most of the things that we spoke about, they have no issue with. There's no problem for them to shave and take haircuts during the 3 weeks. There's no, until a certain day, I'll say until when, there's no problem for them getting married during these days. There's no problem of music during these days. Meaning nothing really begins during 3 weeks until a certain moment. When is the moment that it begins? So Rosh Chodesh Av, Mimatim B'Simcha. So they too have to now limit their happiness as a Rosh Chodesh Av. But what does that carry them to? It means no marriage. That's true for as of the first day, but not. That's also due to the fact that, as we said before, from the danger point of view, that if the Satan Malach HaMavet is more able to function during these days, so it's lo mesamna milta. It's not a good sign if you have if you get married during the 9 days. It's not a good sign for marriage. And the custom in Israel is not to get married during the entire 3 weeks. That's the custom in Israel anyhow. Music also. They have music during 9 days. I believe so, because that's the Mematim B'Simcha. They're not supposed to be happy. So no dancing, and therefore no music that leads to dancing. But most of the stuff that we have as Ashkenazim, we haven't even spoken about the special 9 days halachos, which include many, many more things not to do, many more prohibitions. By the Sephardim, it all begins Shavua Shechal Bo Tisha B'Av. That's how really they start feeling the morning days of these days, which is the week that Tisha B'Av falls in. That entire week, they don't do things. From the beginning of that week till Tisha B'Av. This year, there's no Shavua Shechal Bo. Because Tisha B'Av falls on a Sunday accurately, not on Shabbat being pushed off to Sunday. The 9th of Av is on Sunday, meaning Motzei Shabbat. We get Tisha B'Av Motzei Shabbat. So for them, there's no Shavua Shechal Bo this year. So they barely have any prohibition. Barely anything. Marriage as of Rosh Chodesh Av, music, that's about it. They can take haircuts all through all these days, shave all these days. Especially all the stuff that begins in the 9 days of laundry and all that, they have nothing to do with all that. No prohibition whatsoever.
Quick question. If there was a wedding before Rosh Chodesh Av,
yes,
and Ashkenazi was invited to it, but Moshe has a very, very famous tshuva about
that you mustn't go, right?
No, Moshe's tshuva about no matter when you keep no matter if you keep Omer till Rosh Chodesh Sivan,
yeah, right.
You're invited to a wedding, and it's ilu your sphera.
Yeah.
You're still able to go to the wedding.
He says you're able to?
Yeah.
Because Shlomo Zalman says for sure also yes.
What?
Shlomo Zalman says also so, that you're allowed to go as long as the Chatan and Kala. He says about 3 weeks also.
And that's my question.
Yes.
That was my question.
So I thought that Moshe doesn't allow during the 3 weeks. No, for Sphera you mean, for Sphera. But I think during the 3 weeks he doesn't allow. Yeah, Shlomo Zalman says no matter what, even in 3 weeks, if the Chassan and Kala are doing something that's allowed for them, so anyone is allowed to join. Everyone's allowed to join. You're allowed to join and dance and everything else. They say maybe cut out a little bit of your dancing than you would normally. A little bit less time dancing in the circle. You're allowed to join. You're allowed to be part of it. Shlomo Zalman just didn't officiate at weddings that occurred on days that Ashkenazim or his custom was not to get married in. He wouldn't officiate at the wedding, but he would join the wedding itself. Participate, yes. Exactly. That's how he drew the line that way. So true. You could go even and rejoice with the couple because they're doing the right thing according to their custom. If they're doing the wrong thing, if let's say an Ashkenazi Chiloni would get married these days, acting like the Sephardim, that would be problematic because they're not meant to. So again, we do Tinoch Shenishba, we do the issue of not offending and all these things. So you have to try to. So I'm saying in Israel, I think everyone accepted upon themselves the custom of not. It's much more frequent by Sphira that a lot of people do get married in times where others wouldn't. There's like David just said now, the different customs of how to count the 33 days. So that's much more common that you would go to a simcha on days that you wouldn't really rejoice and have happy times. But during the 3 weeks, I think all Jews in Israel accepted upon themselves the custom not to get married during 3 weeks. I think that it's more of being afraid of this lo misavna milta issue. It's like who wants to get married on mourning days that are sad for us and begin life, marital life on such a day. Right. But it's really this the Ramah that says it. Only the Ramah says in the Shulchan Aruch not to get married during the 3 weeks. It's not in the Shulchan Aruch itself. It's Ashkenazi custom. Okay. So if there are no more questions on this, we'll go on to our Shabbos topics. We're in laundering, I believe. Yeah. Okay, we did quite a few situations. Past 2 weeks, we were discussing laundering. We'll do a few more. Shtifat adashot maga b'Shabbat. This is something that seems to us very awkward to say this is laundering, but post-scheme nowadays, most of them decided that it's true. Contact lenses. Whoever wears contact lenses. So there's a solution that they have to lashrot, not to absorb, to soak, thank you. To soak them in. Friday night, when they take them off, before they go to sleep, they soak them in a solution until the next morning, and then they put them on again. So there are two types of contact lenses. There's a soft type, and there's a stiff, hard type. The hard type most probably doesn't absorb the solution into it. It's more like plastic or glass that doesn't absorb anything, so then there's no problem. We said we can clean any type of substance that doesn't absorb. It's like we spoke about leather last time, that applying water or soaking leather in water is not a problem on Shabbat. You can apply water on leather on Shabbat because leather doesn't absorb so much. We're not allowed to apply water or soap in water and rub it. Water plus rubbing, called kiskus, that's not allowed by leather, but just applying water on leather is okay. Like if your shoes got dirty on Shabbat, you can clean them with leather shoes. Or synthetic cloth also doesn't absorb. You can also clean synthetic or plastic, but the moment it's made out of a material that absorbs, you're not allowed to clean it on Shabbat. No applying of water, no rubbing, nothing of that sort. The stain remains, it's called the Shabbos stain. You're happy to show everyone this is Shabbos. I mean, if you can change your shirt, change your shirt. But if it happens in a situation where you can't change your shirt, so you go out that way, and it's known to everyone. This is a Shabbos stain, non-touchable. So for the hard contact lenses, it would be okay to soak them in the solution because they don't absorb. It's just the external cleanliness that we clean, like cleaning a plate. You're allowed to clean a plate. It's not called kibbutz. You're not laundering the plate. But the soft contact lenses do absorb. They check this. The post-schemes check this scientifically, and that's what it does. It gets the solution gets into it. It gets absorbed into it and gets all the dirt out of it. So it's like cloth, and therefore you mustn't soak it in solution. These people don't know. A lot of people wear contact lenses don't know this halacha. It's written in Shmir Shabbos Kilchasa, not just chumrah of the day type thing.
We learned this in Thursday night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Smichas chaver. Yeah.
Asher Weiss is very
A mekil on that.
Almost positive.
For what reason? Why does it say that? Remember?
After class, I
Okay, I have to check it in. I have to check it out in class. Okay. Interesting I'm interested to hear why. There's one thing that I would think that you could use here in this case is the opinion that says, we spoke about this, that when it's a clean cloth, clean material garment, there is one opinion that says that you can apply water because you're not cleaning anything really. Well, first of all, we said that the Ashkenazim are stringent about that. Even beged naki, yesh mishum kibus. Even if it's a clean garment, you're not allowed to apply water onto it. But besides that, I ask people who wear contact lenses, they're definitely considered dirty, meaning it's cloudy. If you wear them the whole day, they become cloudy. And after you put them into the solution a few hours, they clear out. They're clear and perfect. So there is some cleanliness there that's necessary in order to use them. Besides the fact that they won't dry up during the night, you need them to be soaked in water just to make them to remain soft and be able to apply them to your eye. But besides that, they get cleaned from it. So now the solution for this, instead of using a solution, is what we call saline. Saline, which is just salt and water, that's okay to use here because it doesn't clean them. It just keeps them soft, moist, right? Doesn't make them harden. So that's okay to use on Shabbat. You can buy saline. My daughters who wear contact lenses, that's what they have for Shabbat. You buy that also like a bottle in the pharmacy, and you buy it. You put it into a cup or something. So yeah, soak it in that. Interesting to find out why Rosh Weiss would allow it no matter what. It's a good point. It's important.
Excuse me. There is an opinion. There's an understanding of the Avnei Nezer, who said that laundering is a function of what you see, the change in the appearance, and nobody can see the proteins and things that are stuck in the contact lenses, and therefore it's not. Apparently, those who say that Rav Eliashib thought it's not permitted is because he says, well, maybe it's more that whether you're makpid on it being different, right? Whether you can see it or not is irrelevant, right? And clearly you're makpid on the lenses being changed, but not everybody holds that way. So maybe he holds the other interpretation of Avnei Nezer that says, no, if I can't see a change, then I can't see anything. So what's the difference? Just like you can kosher, right, under circumstances where you can kosher a pot if need be, even on Shabbat in some way. So if things change that you can't see, then that may be the rationale. There are others that hold that way too. It's not across the board by the contact lens because you can't see the change.
I understand that, but we just said before that even a clean garment there's no dirt whatsoever, you still shouldn't do the action of laundering, even though you're not cleaning anything. So how can not seeing the dirt be better than a clean garment?
So maybe they only would permit soaking it in the disinfecting solution, which has some benefit. At least you're not, maybe the rubbing and all that intense cleaning you shouldn't be doing. But at least you can rub it not just in plain water, but actually in disinfecting solution, which will do some minimal cleaning, and of course will disinfect them while you're sleeping.
Yeah. Okay, but I can only understand it better if we're talking about a situation where, according to the opinion that clean garment has no laundering involved at all. Then I can understand your point, Danny. But otherwise, it's hard to understand because even just applying water on a clean shirt would already be a problem. So, truth of the matter is, sorry, something just jumped out of the Zoom or the internet. Okay, so that's for that. We'll continue. A situation where sometimes this may happen to us with grandchildren. If we're holding a grandkid on our laps, sitting on our laps, and it's not yet trained, and suddenly we feel wet. We feel a little bit wet, or even on their own clothes, you see dampness. You see they're wet. The smell comes immediately afterwards. So what do you do then? Of course, you can't wash the clothes, your own self or the baby's clothes on Shabbat. That's clear laundering. No way can we permit that. You just have to change your clothes or change the baby's clothes. But what can be done after all? If you're, I don't know, in shul, it happens to you in shul. You can't change your pants there in shul. So what do you do then? So there's a trick that the Rabbeinu Tam allows to do in such cases, and that is, you can wash your hands, for example. Wash your hands on the faucet, under the faucet, and let the water drip on your pants around that area. Like, you take some water and you're washing your hands as the water drips on your pants, so it's sort of a little bit gets somewhat cleaned away by that water. So you're not doing it directly to apply water on the stain. You're doing it indirectly. You're washing your hands, and more water. You do more than you would normally, and you don't do it over the sink like you would normally. So you let it fall, let the water fall on your pants in that area, so it sort of dissolves the dirt in some way. I don't know if it's that helpful, but it somewhat assists the situation. Okay. But of course, you can't just like open the faucet and extend your legs towards it and put it under the and place that area of the pants under the faucet that's under running water. Of course not. But this way, you're able to somehow get a little bit more clean than before. Okay. Now, there's a very important situation like this, and that is sometimes you want to dry wet cups or plates or utensils that we washed Friday night. We're going to dry them on a towel. So using a towel to begin with, we said that last time or 2 times ago, that's called derech lichluch. That's not a problem because you're wiping your hands from the dirt that you had on your hand onto the towel. Even if they're clean now, and it's just the water that you're drying on a towel, that water causes water stains. So you're not cleaning the towel, you're dirtying the towel. That's not a problem to wipe your hands on a towel. But what happens if you want to dry kalim, all kinds of cups, plates, utensils that you washed on Friday night? You want to just lay them on a towel on the countertop for them to drip onto the towel and dry that way. So firstly, there's the opinion that clean garments, there's no laundering. So if the towel is clean, you're not cleaning it because there's nothing to clean. It's a clean towel. That's first of all. So the Sfardim can be more lenient because the Shulchan Aruch seems like going in that direction. But the Ashkenazim, says the Ramah, that we're supposed to be careful not to apply water even on clean garments. So even if the towel is clean, we still mustn't make it wet. So, but here also, 2 things can be used. One is the fact that it still can be considered dirtying it because it's going to be soaking wet after all their kalim dry up on it. It's also like water stains, sort of. It's not cleaning it. And B, there's another idea here. There is a halacha in Hilchos Borer, not by Shin Bet, which is 302 is the siman in the Shulchan Aruch of laundering, rather in Shin Yud Tet 319. It's also Borer. I think it's Seif Tet. In Shin Yud Tet, Seif Tet. The Shulchan Aruch says there that a person can drink from a cup that has cloth over it, to drink through that cloth, wine or water that he gets through. Wine is problematic. That's the halacha we saw last week, that it can color the cloth, and the problem of tzovea, the thing we mentioned last week with blood and all that, even though we said it's completely against your will. You don't want to color it at all. It's dirty it, but still, after all, secretion, you're applying new color to a garment that's problematic. But water, for example, you can seep through the cloth to your mouth. Why would one do that? Because there's dirt in the water, so you want it to be filtered, strained by it, exactly. But now, that's okay from the point of view. It's mutar from the point of view of borer. Why is it mutar? After all, you're using a cloth to stop the dirt from coming out, so you're separating bad. Actually, it's good from bad, because you're drinking the water and the bad stays on the sides. You're taking the good from the bad. That's okay, but it's with a cloth, so it's a kli, a utensil that helps you separate. That's not allowed. Why is that allowed from the borer point of view? The answer is because it's immediately to drink. Anything that's used for immediate eating or drinking is now borer. Borer is when you separate before you serve, or even at the table, you're separating, but it's not for immediate eating or drinking. That's called derech achila, which allows you to do so. This Shlomo Zalman, based on this, allows the use of a tiyon. It's a tea kettle that you've prepared before Shabbat, the essence, the concentrated tea liquid with a few bags of tea. You soaked tea bags before Shabbat, boiling water with tea bags, in order to make that concentrated tea liquid, which you can then pour into your boiling water and make tea on Shabbat. So they use these small metal kettles that have that essence in them. So when you pour the water out, there's a block, something that blocks the actual tea bags to fall into your cup. It just allows the water to come out. Shlomo Zalman allowed using those because, again, it's always used just for immediate your cup of tea. It's not used for separating big amounts of things. So that's from the point of view of borer. That's our discussion now. But the poskim asked the question: what about laundering? Because that cloth that you're drinking through, it's seeping through the cloth in order to filter the dirt from coming out. The cloth itself, and it's in water, because the Shulchan Aruch says only water can you do this with that, not wine. So you're using water, you're soaking the cloth in water. That's laundering. So if we hold, like the Shulchan Aruch himself probably holds, that it's permissible if the cloth is clean, then that's the answer. Use a clean cloth, which then will not be laundering. But the Ramah, who holds that we're supposed to be stringent even with clean cloth, not to apply water, how can we then use any type of cloth to block away dirt from coming out as the water is seeping through? You're laundering the cloth. So the answer is that there's another concept here that comes into play. And that is, if it's something that's always used for this specific purpose, meaning that it's not just you're taking a shirt that you own, usually you wear it, and you're using that as the cloth to separate the good from bad in the water and filter the dirt from coming out. That would not be allowed. But if it's a specific piece of cloth that's always used just for this, so you're showing that you have no care whatsoever for its cleanliness. You don't care that it's getting clean or dirty. By the way, it could also get dirty as the water is seeping through, because the dirt will will touch it from the other side, just won't come through. It's going to dirty it as well. True, you're also cleaning because the water is also cleaning it, but you're showing that it's for this purpose all the time that you use this piece of cloth for. So therefore, they have no care you don't care whatsoever to laundry it, to clean it now. It's just for this purpose to be done always, always, always. That's something that comes out from this halacha. And therefore, we have these types of, so for a regular towel to use for spreading it on the countertop in order for the kalim to dry onto it, that's not so simple to use. It's not so simple to use, unless we call it derech lichluch, the fact that you're dirtying it more than cleaning it, which is okay. That's also can be used as a leniency, as a permit to do so. But even better, if we they have these types of, for drying up such dishes and cups and wet utensils, they have this special cloth. Oh, racks is definitely fine because that's hard plastic. That's not a problem. No absorption. The racks is perfectly fine. But they have this cloth. We own one at home that's meant just for this purpose exactly. It's made out of cloth, and between it's like a sandwich, two pieces of cloth, top and bottom, and in the center, it feels like I never tore it apart to see what's inside, but it seems like in between there is a sponge type thing. If you press on it, you feel like a sponge inside, so it absorbs the water well. It's called wash dry or something like that. It's meant for drying up dishes and utensils that are wet. You place it on that and let them drip onto it. So that's something that's meant just for this purpose over and over and over again. Therefore, it's the same leniency as we have for that cup, for the cloth over that cup before you drink to funnel it.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is clearly included in the definition of laundering is improving the appearance, leaving aside the discussion about the
clean
contact.
garment.
Right.
Okay,
But
yeah.
is also included the fact that you've improved the functionality. Because let's say you have this cloth that you always use for cleaning, when you're drinking, whatever, picture that situation, right?
Right.
So after a while, whether or not you care that the color changes is irrelevant. At some point, it's going to get so clogged that water won't even seep through anymore. So you're going to want to clean it, not to make it look nice, but simply to improve its functionality. So is that also included in the definition of kibbutz, or is it simply a matter of it looks nicer?
That's interesting. No, I would say that's not laundering. That's okay. I'll tell you where I take this from. It's very interesting. Wow. Because this is like cloth. We asked the question from Borer point of view. I think we mentioned this. How come we can clean our dishes Friday night or Shabbat day? Why isn't that Borer? You're removing bad from good. You're separating. Now it was all even stuck together, and you're washing your dishes, so you're removing bad from good. Or people who clean between their teeth, they're removing. It's definitely a mixture. When something is stuck in between your teeth, then there's a mixture of good and bad. And with the toothpick, you get it out, so you're separating bad from good. Why is that allowed? Bora d'oraita. So Shlomo Zalman comes up with a tremendous great chiddush. It's used by all poskim afterwards, based on the Shilta Giborim of the end of the 14th chapter of Masechet Shabbos. Shilta Giborim there explains that it depends. The definition of the melacha depends also on how we define the action we're doing now. Is anyone gonna call it separating? When I clean a plate, am I separating? No one says that. Everyone says, I'm cleaning the plate. So actually, the better term by definition, when we say I'm cleaning the plate, is laundering, not borer. Cleaning the plate. Borer is separating one from another. If you have a pile of two things, a pile of mixture of two things, and you're separating the pile, you're not cleaning, you're separating. But at this point, by cleaning your plates, you're cleaning, not separating. Now, why isn't laundering after all? So that's called laundering. So it should be allowed, you should not be allowed to clean your plates because that's not absorbed. We said laundering is only if it gets absorbed, but since a hard plate doesn't absorb the filth, it's just on top of it, so there's no problem laundering. So it's not borer because you're cleaning. It's not laundering because it's not absorbed. So it's fine to clean your plates on Shabbat. That's the way we're allowed to clean our plates on Shabbat. Now, taking your question, Dr. Weiss, I would say that the functionality of the cloth is what we would call, so here, I was going to say.
Because for non-clothing things, let's say you have filters, whatever, you do call it cleaning, right? For sure.
Right, I would say it's cleaning, right.
It's a hard surface, but it's still, we call
Clean,
it
but
cleaning.
it's a hard surface, right. You do, right. You do call it cleaning. No, the thing is, you know what? Yeah, it would be a problem. Now, I was going to say functionality, because you're not interested in making it clean, rather you're interested in removing the blockage that's blocking the water from coming through because of all that filth there. But that's too close already. That you can't speak about two types of cleaning. Now, by the way, yes, I would say bottom line is that you wouldn't be allowed to do so, because cleaning is laundering, and it's cloth, which does absorb. So even though you're talking about those speckles of dirt that are sort of on surface and not absorbed in the cloth, but you can't really differentiate. Some of it will be absorbed. And by the way, even if it doesn't get totally clean in the end, because many times the same cloth you use over and over again, it's going to become filthy or dirty no matter what. Even if you apply soap and water, it's going to be a little bit dirty because that's in time. That's what happens to the cloth. Still, that's laundering. Laundering doesn't have to come to a point where it's totally clean. It's the action that counts of applying water to cloth and somewhat getting it a drop cleaner than it was before. That's already laundering d'oraita. We only spoke about the cleanliness of it, that it's totally clean when there's dry, when you're taking away dry dirt without applying water. Then we speak of a difference between if you've cleaned it totally or not. But when it's applying wet water and wetting the cloth, no matter how clean it gets, that's laundering. So I would say this is you would not be allowed to.
So remember last week we spoke about bleach, which doesn't necessarily actually remove any of the dirty particles. It just makes them not visible. So there you've cleaned it without removing anything. You've cleaned it in a sense it's now white. You can't tell that there's something there, but there's still something there.
Right, but we said the appearance, it looks to us clean.
Right.
That's enough to count as laundering. And we said it could even be part of tzovea because you're coloring it white. So it's either tzovea or laundering or a kibbutz, but it's definitely not.
I don't know if it's tzovea, because what happens is the bleach, the same thing happens when you put like the bright colored clothing or lawn furniture out with coverings, right? In the sun over time, the colors fade. Why is that? Because it's either the sunlight through the photons from the sun or the molecules of the bleach, the parts of something that give it its color called chromophores, whatever, it's just a name. And the bleach interferes with the molecules in the chromophores, so they no longer reflect the light that they used to. So that's why they look less bright. You haven't changed anything the same molecules are there, they're just altered. You haven't added, it's like tzovea where you're putting paint on top of something and now it's covered by something else. So I don't think it's tzovea.
Molecules.
Right, you're simply making the molecules behave differently.
Wow.
With bleach.
Wow.
So, but you say either way.
But it's laundering.
Either functionality change or appearance change, either one now, we're saying would be a form of
laundering. Correct? As long as it's something that's absorbed and not on top surface, right?
Right.
Like a table or a counter, you can clean because there's no laundering involved at all to begin with. But in the moment it's a cloth, doesn't matter if it's functionality or cleanliness, the water gets absorbed and cleans something away from it, no matter what the purpose of it is. Yeah, that's too close to decide to make a difference between that, between the two cases. Yeah, for sure. There's one thing, and we'll stop at this. There's one thing that I was puzzled with, and in the end I found it in one of the one of the
Footnotes?
Footnotes. Thank you. Yeah, footnotes of Rav Nebenzahl in the B'itzchaki Kareh on the Mishnah Berurah that Nebenzahl came out with footnotes on the bottom. I found it there, where a tabletop sometimes is formica or even wood. There's a stain that actually gets absorbed in the hard surface of a tabletop. But it's such a powerful substance that gets it stained in a way that it's really absorbed. Like take coffee stains. Some of them are on surface, totally on surface, just wipe them away easily, no problem. Sometimes they get really absorbed in the formica, white formica, if it's not of a very excellent material, meaning high quality. It's not a high quality material, it's a low quality one. Then they actually get absorbed into it. If you try wiping it off with water, it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. You need to use strong detergents that get it out. Or ink. Ink on table surfaces can also do that. So would that be considered laundering? Even though it's a hard surface, it's not material. So most folks can say, no way, it's not considered laundering. Even though there is a type of absorption there, but after all, it's a hard surface, so it's not considered absorbing. Maybe rabbinically could be forbidden, but I don't even, like we said, between hair, wringing our hair, when one has long hair, a woman has long hair, and she squeezes it out from the water that's there, that's called rabbinically forbidden of sochet, which is like laundering. Even though it's not absorbed in the hair, it's just in between the hairs, but it looks so condensed that it looks as if it's absorbed. So here also may look like it's absorbed, but it's not really absorbed. But Rav Nebenzahl, in his footnotes in Shin Bet, if I recall correctly, I remember distinctly that he discusses this issue. If I recall correctly, he doesn't allow cleaning such a surface because it's absorbed. If it's superficial, like on the top of it, then okay. You don't have to scrub hard to get it out, then that's fine, even applying water. But if you have to scrub hard to get it out, and especially if you use detergents, that's considered kibus, even on hard surfaces. Big chiddush. Big chiddush that would not be allowed. And I believe that's what he comes to a conclusion. Okay, so we'll stop at this. Should have a meeting. Mizrat Hashem, Shavua Tov, and B'soros Tovos Yeshuos v'Nechamos. Very soon, Mizrat Hashem. Okay, all to bye bye.